Okay, hi. Welcome to vlog number 1. I've decided that just as a way to keep focused on making these videos, and since some of them are getting views, that I'm going to try and post every week. I haven't decided what day I'm going to put this up on, but I think I'll probably try to post every Sunday. I think that's pretty safe. So today I'm going to talk about the first kidney transplant screening meeting that you might go to, or maybe you're curious about, and what it takes to get a transplant. So at the start of every video, I'm going to run what my current stats are. And so, although I don't actually know all of them, but I did just get my creatine tested again, and it's 5.3 something, which is crappy. I know my doctor said once I hit 5.8, I'll need to go on dialysis. My GFR was 10. So for those who don't really know what those numbers mean, friends or family watching, that means that the GFR is on a scale from 0 to 100 essentially, and it's how well it's the glomerular filtration rate, and how well your kidney's functioning. So 100, it would be 100% function. I'm at 10, I'm at 10% function. And the creatinine, a normal person's creatinine would be 1.0. When I was really sick 15 years ago with kidney issues initially, I hit 1.4 at my highest. Sorry, my phone. And being sick now, it just unfortunately keeps going up because I'm sick. So anyhow, my nephrologist, he said to me a while ago that once your creatinine hits about 4.0, the likelihood of your kidneys recovering is less and less likely, and that's when they start talking to you about the possibility of dialysis and transplant. And I go to Stanford, and they talk about both at the same time. And he told me about 2 months ago to decide what type of dialysis I think I wanted, and he broke it down and encouraged me to check out and research the 2 different kinds, which I have, and I'm pretty set on doing the PD, which I'll talk about in a different video. But then to also start with the kidney clinic. At time of making this video, it's November 19th, and I was really lucky to get into an appointment on November 11th at an outpatient clinic in San Francisco versus the hospital, and that's because I can walk. I don't have any other major medical complications, and it was a tiny room and office, but this otherwise to be seen at the hospital for this initial evaluation would have been till April, May, or June of 2017. So a really long wait. So hopefully I can already be possibly getting a kidney at that point versus for my sister, versus waiting to even start the process. So what is the process? So step 1 was obviously getting sick, and reaching a point in which my doctor does not feel my kidneys are going to come back. I have chronic kidney disease, and I had some acute issues this year, which pushed me over the line. Everyone's going to be different, so obviously work with your nephrologist and team to understand, but he put in the referral, and since I was already seen at Stanford, they obviously want to do it in a house, and I like Stanford, and they do a large number of transplants. So the first thing that they did was they sent me this packet, and it included some different information. They had to get my health information first, and they sent me a really detailed letter with everything highlighted on what I need to know, and letting me know that I had a half-hour video I needed to watch that they had put together first that would go over just what kidney transplant is and what to expect at the appointment. And that video honestly wasn't too surprising to me. There's like 1 or 2 things that was new, but I've been doing a lot of research. But the video was helpful, and I'll put a link to it. But then it just let me know like when and where exactly to arrive. It gave me a heads up about parking, that the evaluation would be about 3 to 4 hours in length. In my case, I didn't have to bring, it tells you to bring your medical records because you really do need to know your family health history. But in my case, because I've been going to Stanford forever, like 8 years, they already had everything, but we still reviewed it. And then they're really helpful and printed out like a map and directions. They also gave me a printout of what my insurance will cover, and it lets me know what, like, just reconfirming who my insurance is, what my co-payments are, what the rate of reimbursement is, the transplant benefit max, lodging and meals, and residency to transplant facilities over 75 miles, lifetime benefit max, ground ambulance, air ambulance, prescription drug plans. And then there's also a note that my insurance allows for living donor transplant. And if I have more questions, I can follow up. And just that, you know, the disclaimer that this information is good as the day that they went and looked at it. Then I also got a list of how much will my medications cost after a kidney transplant. And it tells me just the number of pills potentially I could take per month of each different medicine, if there's a generic available, and what my co-pays would be. And then how you would take the pills. Then there is an application, I think, for Medicare that they put in there. I'm really, really lucky to have really good insurance. So, I'm good. It will cover everything. And then it has another sheet of like getting help with prescription drugs and services to work on that. So those are all helpful pieces of information. And then it also, which I haven't even really fully looked at these, included transplant finances, fundraising for your transplant, and I guess just making sure that you start planning financially, which I have to some extent, just making sure that extraneous expenses are being cut down on and so forth. It kind of helps when you're sick the whole year, at least in my case. I didn't travel as much and spend as much money, so and then this is a transplant finance coordinator. Talks about Medicare, COBRA, etc. And then, this was the initial welcome letter. Welcome new and existing patients to Stanford's Hospital Solid Organ Transplant Program. And then it had a little sheet of just understanding your responsibility and everything. So then the last thing that they included in the packet they mailed to me was these slides, and they actually ended up being exactly what was in the video. So the video is actually a slideshow with someone talking over these, but I jotted down some random notes and was able to highlight, so that was actually nice, because then I brought this all in with me when I had the evaluation. So that was the first thing I got, was all of this, and I started reading through it. Then I watched the video, which there's a link to in the description, or I said I was going to put one in. I watched that and got some questions answered, but actually, going back to this, it just talks about what are the options for dialysis, the difference between deceased and living donors, how you can do donor chains, some of the blood work that would happen. It talks a lot about the wait list, and active and inactive status, how our kidneys allocated, what happens with the transplant surgery and hospital stay. emotional impact of getting a transplant, all sorts of good stuff, side effects of immunosuppressant drugs, which I know all too well from taking prednisone, which still got to, my face gets puffy on like every other day. It's really annoying. So I reviewed that. Then I had 2 different phone calls that I had to do. The first one was a health history of both myself and my family. And a lot of it, again, was already in Stanford system, but I needed to go through it just more carefully. And then the second call was with a social worker who works in the program. And they just wanted to know, I think, make sure that, like, I had people to help take care of me afterwards, who are like the primary people who can help, who are secondary help. And actually what I didn't know till the appointment was that you need 24/7 care after you get a transplant. So thankfully I have a lot of family members who can fly out and help and all that good stuff. So to review, I got this. I had the 2 phone calls. And then lucky for me, I was able to get in early to this clinic. And one thing that was really just like, I wish they'd called it an interview process. And I think, you hear appointment, and when it's medical and you're like, okay, like they're going to do all the things. And appointment it is an appointment, but it's not a medical appointment. It's really a screening/interview process. And you basically go, and the Stanford process is you meet with the transplant coordinator. I had some family come with me, and especially my sister, who is potentially going to be a donor. She flew out from Minnesota to go to the appointment with me, which is really nice. And so we went, and it was kind of unclear, like, if I'd be giving blood or not, but it was just in a random office building downtown San Francisco. That's a satellite office that they use once a month that Stanford has. And it was on the same floor as like the Vietnam embassy. There was a bunch of embassies in that building, which was interesting. Or like the consulates. So the appointment itself, I got to come in a slightly later slot at 10:30. And I got a bunch more paperwork. Whole other folder, and there was a bunch of stuff in here to go through. I had to fill out, sign a bunch of forms like HIPAA and stuff like that. And so while we were waiting, the coordinator came out because there's other patients there. She gave us these slides again, which I don't understand actually why I got them again, because they're exact copy of what I had before. But that was okay. And actually this whole little pamphlet deal is pretty nice, if I can get through it all. So it's a kidney transplant program, and then it has again like kind of like a third copy of the slides. So it just got really a little repetitive with the information, but I mean, depending on like who you are and what you need, I'm sure it's just way better that they just really keep hammering home some of these different things of just how it works and the patient survival rates, living donor versus deceased donor again, transplant. But again, it's like really nice that it's all laid out, and I'd rather have more information than less information, and everyone was super nice. So don't get me wrong, but I was like, I think I'm good. I think I've looked at all of this. So then I can sort through some of this. Sorry, I should have laid this out before I started recording. So then there was just like some paperwork we started looking over, and then there's another pamphlet about kidney allocation that I got, and this one is actually from the United Network for Organ Sharing, so UNOS. So this was not Stanford material, and then I had another one for transplant candidates about multiple listing and waiting time, which I'll get into in a little bit. So I got all of this. And And then more kind of information, note about using My Health at Stanford, which allows you to log in, see test results, email doctors and stuff. And then I'll kind of get into the rest of this later. It's a copy of what I signed or some of the like HIPAA type stuff. And then, yeah, so I basically was handed a bunch more information, and then I rechecked with the social worker, but she really didn't have a lot for me. We'd gone over it pretty thoroughly on the phone already, so she just double checked to see like my living situation and who else can take care of me if things happen, and really distressed. And that was when it was really stressed and hadn't been brought up in the videos and stuff before, of like right after a transplant, you need to be taken twice a week for checkups for the first month. You need the 24/7 care, and I'll be like up and walking and about and stuff. But you can have acute kidney failure all of a sudden, and I guess it's like collapse potentially. Hopefully that's not the case. And then like it lessens as you go up to about 3 months out, and then 3 months is when you'd come back to work and so forth. But I actually have a really flexible job that I can work from home, so I might be able to work sooner. But so we really just went over that, and then we went back to the waiting area for a little bit because it was so quick. And then we got to meet with the transplant doctor. And I actually saw a different doctor who I'd seen in the hospital, and I got mixed up. I was like, hey, I've seen that guy before, because I feel like I've seen all of the nephrologists at Stanford between my 2 hospital visits this year. So I so we went in, and he really went through my health history again, just asking, you know, what illnesses I've had. Thankfully, my sister was there because there was some stuff I actually didn't even know about one of my sisters who's doing some genetic testing, which she hadn't shared with me, but the other sister knew, and they want the results of that, because unfortunately my oldest sister had colon cancer at age 40, which is almost 10 years ago, and she survived, but because of getting colon cancer at a younger age, there can be genetic issues that maybe I have and so forth, so we really went through thoroughly with all of that. He asked me, you know, just like, can you walk a mile? Like, how, kind of just trying to gauge how healthy I was. And I mean, I am having some complications for end-stage renal failure. But when he looked at my numbers, he's like, everything you're saying is on point to what you would have. And so really, he's gathering all of this information because what he then does is he's my advocate for in pitching whether or not I'm a good candidate for transplant. And so that's what the whole appointment really was for, like an evaluation of, am I healthy enough to go through a surgery, which is kind of an oxymoron, right? Like, I'm obviously sick, so I need it, but we have to make sure my heart is good enough. I have no like crazy other infections. I'm not in like multiple organ failure. And I'm a pretty healthy, sick person. If that makes any sense. And so then we just talked a lot more, too, about getting matched. And I have 2 siblings who are willing to get tested. And he said that there's a really good chance with 2 of them that will match. I'll match to one of them. Then he said my case was like pretty likely to be accepted, and they do their review every so often. So then I got a bunch of tests that they would then need to do, and if I get fancy with my editing, I'll put in my picture of all the blood I had to give. And actually, for all the things they could have checked on this list for me to follow up and get, I am pretty good. I just have to do a resting and dopamine stress echocardiogram. So I think that's where I get on like the treadmill and they test my heart. And then I have to get pap smear. But then there's a lot of stuff like that's age dependent that I don't have to do. I don't have to do an EKG or chest x-ray or test for tuberculosis. I don't have to do a pulmonary psychiatry test. I mean, I will get some notes. I do actually do see a psychiatrist. Just I think actually from issues with taking prednisone years ago, but that's a different story. I don't have to do a CT anagram of the iliac and femoral vessels, or an ultrasound of the iliac and so it's ultrasound or CT anagram or cardioid ultrasound or myocardioid perfusion study or coronary anagram. So I don't have to do any of that. I just have to like check my heart and do a pap smear, and then I already gave 19 vials of blood, but I felt confident, so we went ahead and ordered those. And so that was good. And once they get all of that, then they were like, okay, we'll let people start testing. So anyhow, the rest of the appointment was just really talking about that, and that there's ways that if one of my siblings is like mildly mismatched, that we can tweak some stuff with antibodies so we can be more of a match. And actually be okay. And then we also spoke about that if we have some of the similar antigens from our parents, only Stanford and Boston, and if this works out, I'll definitely make videos about it, do this protocol where I would then also get stem cells in addition to the organ from either my brother or my sister who can donate. And if they can donate, and that would allow, it's kind of a blood transfusion of their blood, and it would allow me to not have to take the anti-rejection medicine. So they kind of trick the body into thinking that this kidney is, and the blood and everything is just all normal, versus when you get an organ, your body's constantly like, what the hell is this? Like, get it out. Which is why you have to take immunosuppressants and anti-rejection drugs the life of whatever organ you get transplanted into your system. So that would be amazing if we match, because then I would just have to take the drugs possibly for a year to 18 months, and then we could start weaning off of it. It's not a guarantee, and I understand that, but I mean, why not? I mean, yeah, I'm going to hope that could be the case. So my doctor, we did a small exam. He kind of checked for some swelling, listened to my lungs. And then we were pretty much done, and we asked some other questions and just talked about like artificial kidneys, and it sounds like those aren't really there yet. But then we met with the transplant coordinator, who's so sweet, and she had a whole checklist of things that we just double checked, went through. I think she kept that like little checklist that are just lost in all my papers. Because they do give you a lot of thorough information, like these different team members, in case I needed to lose more weight, which I probably should, because the doctor was like, getting ready for this is like getting ready for a marathon, which is hard because I'm tired all the time. I'm like, how am I supposed to work out and hold a job? So there is information for, kidney transplant candidates, information for potential kidney donors, and my sister took home a folder they had as well that she's sharing with my brother, information for kidney transplant candidates regarding living donor kidney transplantation. So lots of good information. Still looking for that checklist. It's just gone. Because I have two siblings who thankfully are willing to get checked and so forth, I didn't spend too much time or questions on the wait list. I know that once I got approved, I've been listed as inactive, so I'm not like on a 24/7 call to potentially get a kidney, but I'm accruing wait time, which is very important. And there's a number of factors. And even that being said, because my blood type, I'm O positive, so I can't I need other O's, versus if I was like an AB or something, I could take other blood types. So that puts me a little bit longer on the list, but I also get ranked a little bit better on the list because I'm younger, and the thought process is they redid the whole system so that it wasn't first come first serve. It was who can potentially benefit from the longest lifespan from getting a living donor kidney, because or just a kidney in general. Sorry, not living donor, but a deceased donor. And deceased donor kidneys only last, I don't want to mess it up, but it's like 8 to 10 years, I think, something like that. Let's see if I can actually find it. Whereas I think living donor is more like 10 to 15. And the hope is that if I can get a living donor, maybe other technologies will catch up so I can either prolong that kidney I get, or get there's like other technology that's caught up, so to prolong the life of the kidney I do have. So anyhow, if neither of them are eligible to donate after they go through their testing, I have family across the country, so I probably would look more into listing at multiple sites. And the way you do it is there's different regions, and this again would be like another video I could go into later, but I'm not really pursuing it. But the quick and short of it is there's different regions, and so if I were to go back to Minnesota, where I'm from, I couldn't register like both in Minneapolis and St. Paul. I would just choose one hospital for the region as a whole, but you need someplace that you can stay at and get to. So I potentially have places I will be able to explore in Florida, Kansas, Minnesota, Boston, and possibly some others. So that's good. Family will just have to put me up for a month or more though. Yeah, so that was the appointment. So we finished with the coordinator, and that was it. And then because they're really confident about me being able to donate, to receive a kidney and get approved, I was given all the tests to go and do, and I did those, and they called and said that I got approved. So that was it. And now my sister is in the process of getting screened to Stanford, and I am following up with my regular nephrologist, and basically I'm just going to go from there. But that was what it was like, and let me know if you guys have questions. I'd be curious to see how other initial interview processes go, but this was step 1, and like I said, I'm going to try and make more of these on a weekly basis. So see you guys all next week. Bye.